Little handprints. There's sorry, ADD. Um, uh, you have this moment of worship, you have relationship, and then freedom in the story. You have them in captivity, and they worship. Uh, they are together, chained together in this prison at the time, which has a lot of meat to it in itself. And then you see their freedom after that. Um, so we'll be jumping into it. I'm also working on something called three questions because in Galatians there are three really tough questions that Paul asks uh, of the different Christians in Galatia, and it's something that every believer at some point has to ask themselves these questions. Like, who am I trying to please? Is one of the questions. Am I trying to please God or man? How did I get to this point? Is in a nutshell is the second question. And the third question is basically, am I speaking and accepting truth? Because where that comes from is the last question he asks in Galatians is, have I now become your enemy for speaking truth to you? So it's tough. There's some tough stuff in it, but um, I don't know if I'm going to do a Wednesday night or Sunday morning with that. I'm not sure, but that's kind of where we're headed between, or just now, Christmas, first of the year. I always do the stewardship series the first of the year. I've done it for 4 or 5 years now. We're teaching on generosity and what a healthy church looks like. I'm looking at it, revamping it. I may do it in February instead of January. We'll see. It's something I'm praying about, but let's get into this. Last week we finished in Luke 14, and we went over the parable of the great feast, and I gave you this explanation of what Jesus was saying and doing in response to the Pharisees that were at this dinner. Um, I want to, before we go over another parable, I want to go over Luke 14 again. But tonight I kind of want to look at it and look at how it applies to us today. And I originally, the idea was we titled this message, It's Go Time, and I started to take it off. So I didn't want people to get up and leave if I said that. But it is real. It is go time. We're at a crossroads as a church, not just Lifegate, but the church in America, the church as a whole. We've come to this stop sign, let's say, for a pause. Pause for, I mean, not trying to rhyme, but kind of pause for the cause type thing. We've looked right, we've looked left, we've considered God's will, and now we can't just sit idle at this intersection. We have to move. That's what I said Sunday. We've got to move. Put the pedal to the metal. It's go time. Move forward. Now, throughout the Bible, we're told to move. Matthew, I don't have this as a slide, but 28:19. Go therefore, make disciples of all the nations. Go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Mark 16:15, he tells them, go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. First two letters of the word gospel are go. Psalm 126:6, they weep as they go to plant their seed, but they sing as they return with the harvest. Nothing happens until we go. Kind of playing on Sunday, until we move. Acts 5:20, go to the temple and give the people this message of life. It's something Jesus said, it's something that he did. Mark 1:38, we must go on to other towns as well, and I will preach them too. That's why I came. In Mark 5:19, after casting a demon out of a man, he wants to go with them. He wants to tell people about him. He wants to follow Jesus, tell the world. And Jesus in 5:19 says, no, go home to your family. Go to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful he's been. Everywhere we see him telling people to go, or that we must go. Matthew 13:3, actually, I don't know if I put that in there. I didn't. it tells us that he told all these stories in the form of parables. He told many stories in the form of parables like this one. And it says in 13:3, listen, a farmer went out and planted some seed. He went or go. We need to went. We need to go. Many of us as Christians, we get into we were in the habit of witnessing to people. But then something happens and we just get in this groove of life and the groove of our Christianity, and we get out of the habit of witnessing, talking to people about Jesus. And it fits, but there was this story I read about I could see it here. It wasn't here though, but a football game played on home field. This kid named Calhoun was like the star running back. But they're getting smeared. The whole game they're getting smeared by the defenses of the other team. And so the crowd starts yelling, give the ball to Calhoun, give the ball to Calhoun. He's the running back, right? Get it to him. He's the guy. They tried play after play, and they kept getting smeared, and Calhoun never got the ball. And about the third quarter, the guy that keeps getting tackled finally gets up, throws the ball down, and yelled at the crowd. Yelled at the fans. He said, Calhoun doesn't want the ball because he don't want to be where I am right now. A high school kid, right? He just didn't. Calhoun was a star guy. He didn't want to get tackled the whole game. He didn't want to play. And I read it. It was a cute little story about, youth and angst and all that stuff. But I thought about it, and it really matches a lot of Christianity. There's too many people that just don't want the ball. They don't want to run with it. They don't want to work. They don't want to carry the gospel. And they need to what we need is to hear the cry of the crowd in heaven that's cheering us on. There's this great cloud of witnesses, we're told in Hebrew. They're in the grandstands of glory, and they're urging us to run the race before we leave this earth. We need to be hearing the calls that our coach is as he calls, the voice of our coach as he calls plays. Jesus is our coach on the field. So Luke 10:1-3 says that the Lord sent them. He sent people 2 by 2 into every city. And he said that the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Pray to the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers. And then he says in verse 3, go, I send you forth as lambs among wolves. John 15:16, you haven't chosen me, Jesus said, but I've chosen you, and I've ordained you that you should go and bear fruit, bring forth fruit. Romans 15:25, he says, but now I go unto Jerusalem to minister to the saints. Galatians 2:9, we should go unto the heathens. And then our text is Luke 14. We're going to start in 21. It's the dinner party that we talked about last week. The servant returned. This is after they had sent out all the invitations. I told you last week. He sent out the invitations. In Jewish culture back then, they would invite you at RSVP, and they would make the dinner according to who said they were going to be there. But then right before the dinner, they would send out servants to say, hey, it's time for you to come eat. So the servant returned. Nobody was showing up that he was invited. Told his master what they said. Master was furious and said, go quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, the lame. After the servant did this, he reported, there's still room for more. So his master said, go into the country lanes and behind the hedges and urge anyone you find to come, so the house will be full. In most cases throughout the Bible, especially the New Testament, the word translated into go is what's called a present progressive tense. It literally means as you are going. So it's as you're moving, as you are going. Why do you think God left us here instead of whisking us away at salvation? He left us here so we could take as many with us as possible. It's go time. It's time to stop sitting still. It's time to get to work. We have a great thing going here as a church and a great culture and a great feel, and we need to be sharing it with our community. Um, I see it seems like every day when I pass the fire department, they're washing their truck. Every day. Every single day. So is the purpose of the fire department to keep the truck shiny and their uniforms neat? Is it to put out fires? Okay. There's a need for both, though. There's a need to put out fires. There's a need for them to keep their equipment clean and neat. There must be a balance between the two with us, too. Like, there has to be a balance between reaching souls and caring for the saints. But if we forsake one for the other, it's displeasing to the Lord. If we're all about the country club, those that are in here, and not about the lost, then we're displeasing the Lord. If we're all about the lost and not caring for the saints, it's out of balance. So, number one, let's go invite them. Let's go invite people. Back to the text in verse 16, it says, a man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. In verse 12 and 13, Jesus, as he's getting on to the hosts of the parties, these Pharisees, he tells them, don't invite your friends or your rich neighbors to dinner. He said, instead invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. So this would have been, he was saying, people like blind Bartimaeus and rich people like Zacchaeus and religious people like Nicodemus, sick people like the impotent man, wicked people like the woman at the well, working people like James and John who were mending their nets, political leaders like Cornelius, social people like Lydia, little people like the children Jesus spoke of. And the very occasion of this parable, when he's saying this, he's dining with sinners. Yeah, they're Pharisees, but if you look at the context, like their attitudes and their mindsets, these are not godly people. And not a single place in the Bible does it command lost people to come to church. Never does. It never commands the lost to come to church. We're supposed to go out and bring them in. And we the pastor, we the people, all of us. So where should we go? If we're going to invite, Jesus said, go into all the world. He also said into the streets and the lanes, into the highways and the hedges. So God's trying to lead us to the thirsty, to the seeking, the interested. And there are many out there. He says the fields are white unto the harvest. So first, we need to go invite them. Second, let's go instruct them. In Matthew 28:20, making disciples of all the nations, Jesus says, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. So after inviting people, we must then instruct people. Invite them and instruct them. That's discipleship. That's training. That's teaching the ones that we've invited in. This is one-on-one mentoring, not just class settings or group settings like this or preaching or Sunday morning crowds. It's seasoned believers discipling new believers. Then number 3, let's go inspire them. There's a need for Christians to be alive, alert, awake. There's a tremendous need right now for zeal and inspiration. Like the message is exciting. The gospel is exciting. I mean, there is no place like this place anywhere near this place. I'll say that as far as the application that we try to get out of the gospel. I don't think there's no place like this place anywhere near this place. So this must be it must be the place. So you have to know why your church is special if you're going to invite someone in East Texas. If you just, everybody gets invited to church in East Texas. Everybody. Really come to our church, all right? What's so great about it? Well, you can come as you are. That's any church. All but about 5, 10 maybe. They're still really uptight. Come as you are. We do contemporary music. Again, that's not very special. You have to know why this place is special to you. We're in the greatest business in the world. We're in God's business. I get to see people enter here with their strength just drawn out of them, drained from them. They're frowning. There's worry on their face. They're stooped over when they come in. The weight of their burdens are obvious. And our job is to charge their batteries, basically. we get to make a volcano out of that. Like I know I talk a lot about emotionalism, but at the same time, getting excited. There's a need for people to get fired up and filled with enthusiasm for God, real enthusiasm. Many people will be saved and their lives will be changed, and we're all more excited when that happens, and we get to be a part of that. So, number 4, let's go involve them. Um, once we've invited people and instructed them, that means we've got them on a solid foundation, inspire them to do the work of the Lord, then we need to involve them. I'm careful about this because I feel like, what is the show that you will be assimilated? I can't remember the is that what it was? That's what it, okay. All right, Star Wars guy, not Star Trek. I knew somebody would know it. Okay. I feel like churches are like that, though. A lot of times, like, you will be assimilated. You come in and we're going to assimilate you, and you'll be a part of the machine. And yeah, it is necessary, but at the same time, sometimes we don't give people enough time to heal before we do that. Also, we get more concerned about volunteers in the church or church numbers that we're not willing to correct said volunteers or move them down for a week or two so they can focus on themselves. So they're assimilated and they end up just dying off. But we do need to get people involved. We need help in kids' classes and in the nursery. It's a great problem to have. It really is. But it's something we need to be working on. And it's going to take many, many of you actually stepping up to the plate to actually do it right. But I believe the Lord is looking for the wings of protection that the young chicks will be under, basically, that they can grow under safely. We have a bunch of young families in the church. With that comes babies. Obviously, a lot of babies here. Tons of them. So listen, Sunday, our staff back there was stretched, which is great. They're excellent at what they do. They've been, all of y'all that help in that area, thank you so much. Honestly, the superstars of any Sunday morning, y'all never see because they're back there. They are back there. Got spit up all over them and 4 dirty diapers later. Their hair's in a mess. They're just happy they get your kid back to you alive at that point. And everybody comes and says, Pastor, it was such an amazing service, but no one ever goes up and thanks those people. So you could have that experience. Yeah, well, I mean, couldn't happen to a nicer lady, though. I mean, it was you back there, right? It was just you? I thought so, yeah. How many did we have? I think that should be a salvation test. We just put people in a room with 8 babies, and if you keep your Jesus for 45 minutes to an hour, you are saved. But they are. I mean, I will say that they're great at what they do. These ladies are great at what they do. They have a heart for it, but they are overextended, overworked, and underappreciated, by and large. So it is exciting, though, that we're growing to that point, that we have that many kids in the church. So what I want you to do is be praying about where God could use you, where God is wanting to use you, and be expecting great things that He has in store. Because I'm really I've really come to a point of fed up as church as usual type stuff. I've sensed a lot of transformation on the way. 2 weeks in a row, our Tuesday prayer service, it's been amazing, and I'm not even in here for it, but I can sense it and feel it, and I hear about it, and so somewhere, I can't remember where I read it, but there was a tribe of natives in South America that they learned that the leaves of some weird plant, but they learned that the leaves of that plant, certain trees, gave them extra energy and strength. It's probably a good thing we can't pronounce the tree because we would have it here. But it would give them energy and give them strength, and it would keep them from getting hungry, which we already have those items. But they began to eat this stuff every day, throughout the day, and they seemed strong and they seemed energetic, and they really seldomly got hungry. So everybody started using it. A few days after they started using this thing, this great, it's a productivity plant basically. A number of them started to die. they starved to death. It had tricked them into thinking they didn't need food. They starved to death. The leaves tranquilized them, tricked them with a false, drug-like energy. Satan likes to do that. He tricks us and he tricks our senses, and it's quite obvious that Satan has had great success in getting Christians to be perfectly satisfied with the routine of church. The routine of going to church, taking part in the formalities of service, carrying on the functions of social ministry, and thinking they're pleasing God, and they can be, but sometimes they become spiritually dead. One of the only answers to get back is to get back to the basics of actually going after people and carrying out the Great Commission. It's go time. Now, listen, y'all are Wednesday night people. Y'all are like the missionaries on the field of church people. Anybody can make it to a Sunday morning, but can you make it to a Wednesday evening after you've worked half the week and your kids are not the little angels you pretend they are on social media, but you made it, right? This is like the strength, the people that make it on Wednesday. But we need to make sure we're going. And there are times people don't need to go out until they have come in and learned, or come to the Lord if they need to be saved, or come back to the Lord if you've gotten away, and then come to God's house. Be here Sundays, be here Wednesdays, be here for Sunday night prayer. Then you'll get prepared to go. So I just wanted to touch on that because it's applicable. What Jesus did and what he said to them is a lesson in itself, but then that parable is a lesson for us to go and do. Invite them. Go into the streets and the highways, go into the countries and to the cities, and invite people. But Luke 15 is where I really want to get to. And it's the parable of God's lost and found. Right after 14, 15, 1 and 2 say that tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and the teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them, after he had just had a dinner with those people. So Jesus goes on after verse 2 to tell he tells three stories. And we usually we call them three different parables, but these three stories are actually, they run together to make up one big parable, even though we've broken them apart. And we know it's one parable because in verse 3 it says, so Jesus told them this story. We call them the parables of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son, or the prodigal son. But they're told as one. So like I said, we really have three stories that make up one parable of God's lost and found. And we'll have to go over them a couple times. But verse 4 and 5, if a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness to go search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he's found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. 6 and 7 say, when he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep. In the same way, there's more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. So the lost sheep obviously represents those who are out in the world not saved. They're not part of the count, let's say. They're in danger, they're exposed, they're helpless, but Jesus came to seek and save those who are lost. He isn't just about those that are in the house, he's about finding others and bringing them into the fold. Then the second part is 8 through 10. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins, it says, and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house to search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call her friends and neighbors, say, rejoice with me because I've found my lost coin. In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. The lost coin isn't like the sheep. It's not lost out in the elements. It's lost in the house, in the church, they say. This can represent a saved soul, but a lost life. Saved soul, but lost life. to be out of the hand of the one whom we belong to is to be useless. So when a piece of money is misplaced, it's not the actual piece of metal that's lost, but if you think about it, all the good that the money might do is lost as well because it's gone. If you misplace a $100 bill, the value of it is gone in that moment. The good it could have done for you is gone in that moment too. So this is a person that may come to church, but they're almost invisible. They don't do much. They need to realize that we're not saved just to sit and soak, but to serve and be useful. So it could represent, or we could say the person in the house could represent the lost church member who has profession without possession, a profession of faith without a possession of faith or salvation. This one is lost even though they're in the house. Going to church, you got to remember, going to church doesn't make you saved any more than flapping your arms makes you a bird. And then 11 and 12 and on says, to illustrate the point further, Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide the wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. This is known as the prodigal son or the lost son. He represents the backslider, let's say. They're saved, but they've gotten away from God. They haven't lost their relationship with the Father, but they're not in fellowship with the Father. The son didn't lose his relationship with his dad, but he wasn't in fellowship with his dad. The story goes on to basically say the son went to work for a farmer, and he was so hungry that the slop that the farmer had him feeding these hogs actually looked appetizing to him. And he's dying of hunger. He comes to his senses in the pigsty and realizes that even the hired servants at his father's house are given more than enough food. So he decides, I'm going to go home. And he made up his mind when he sees his father, he's going to repent. And I'm going to tell Dad that I'm no longer worthy to be called your son, but please hire me as a servant. And that kind of gets us to verse 20 and 21. It says, so he returned home to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, kissed him. His son said, Father, I've sinned against both heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. 22, but his father said to the servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. Kill the calf that we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for the son of mine was dead and is now returned to life. He was lost, but is now found. So the party began. Before I go any further, I have read this multiple times. I've taught on it multiple times. I've given different viewpoints of it. But something that really hit me hard today that I've never really paid attention to before is the father doesn't even respond to the son's repentance in a way. I mean, he does respond to it, but it's like he didn't honor, and I mean this in a positive way, when I'm not worthy to be your son. He didn't even honor that with a response of yes, you are, no, you're not. What he did is he showed him. Words didn't matter, it was the actions. And he tells the servants in every way he can, this is my child, this is my son, this is my heir. So we have 3 stories, and they look at 3 ways that someone can be lost. And throughout the 3 stories, we get to see all 3 persons of the Trinity. It's really cool to me, but the shepherd seeks the lost sheep to save it. Jesus is the Son of God, the shepherd who leaves all behind to go after the lost. And he does that at great personal sacrifice, but he still, at that sacrifice, he seeks the one to save the one. The woman with the lost coin, the woman who seeks the lost piece of silver, is a picture of the Holy Spirit. Not male, female, don't go that route on me, but if you think about it, why are we lost as well sometimes. Usually two reasons: dust and darkness. We're lost because of dust and darkness, cloudy vision, or just darkness around us. And just like the woman lights a candle and uses the broom, the Spirit of God shines the light of truth on us from without, not within, but from without, and shines this light on the dust of our inward corruption that then gets stirred up within so the lost can be found. So the unsaved is lost because they're outside of the fold, but a Christian can be outside of the control and the touch of the Holy Spirit and be lost in their own way as well. Like you can be in God's hand for salvation, but you seem to be just out of reach for God to use you. So when it comes to service, this person is lost. When it comes to opportunities, this person is lost. That's lost ministry, lost blessings, lost tithes, lost witnessing. And it's a lost cause until they get in touch with the Spirit of God again, really inside of them. And then they'll become a tool in the hand of the master that's intended to be. But when the lost is found, from the sheep to the coin. The third, the father of the prodigal son, seeks the lost son to restore fellowship with him, but he never goes seeking his son, okay? He never goes forth to seek the son. He waits. He waits for the son to come back to him, to come back home. That is a picture of God the Father. He calls on us when we've backslidden to return to him. He promises healing and restoration to everyone that comes back. All they have to do is first come to themselves and then come back, or come to them senses and come back. So, and I think that's interesting, but all three stories, you see rejoicing in all three stories, okay? When the lost is found, the lost sheep is a lost soul, but the lost can be found. The lost silver is a lost servant, but the lost can be found. And the lost son has lost all his senses, but he can come to himself and he can come back. So, and then that way the lost can be found. So I'm going to break them down as fast as I can and go over them, but you had to have an overall, like an overview of all of them before we can do that. So back to the top, which is the lost sheep, verse 4. And I want you to think about this, because we especially when it comes to the coin part, we're good at telling ourselves that we're not lost to service, not lost to opportunities, not lost to ministry when we are. But let's start with the lost sheep, 15:4 again. Just to recap it, if a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness to go search for the one that is lost till he finds it? So the first story in this parable just proves that God's love is seeking love. He seeks those lost souls. Isaiah 53:6 says that all of us like sheep have strayed away. I mean, Jesus died for the all in that verse. For God so loved the world, that's everyone, but he still goes after the one. Every individual is precious to him. And verse 4 ends with this wonderful promise, or these words, that until he finds it. He seeks until he finds it. So if we could get 99 out of 100 people in the church today, we would be super satisfied. I would be. If we had a town of 100, if Lufkin was a town of 100 and we had 99 in this church, every Christian magazine, every TV show, every preacher would be calling us, asking us how we did it. That would be super successful. And I think we would be satisfied, to be honest with you. But I'm a shepherd. The good shepherd, like I'm an under shepherd under Jesus. As the shepherd, Jesus isn't satisfied until he finds that one. I think if you really put it in context, we'd be happy with 60, 50, 40%. He's not happy until he finds that one. Matthew 9:36 says that he saw the crowds and he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. When people ask what's the difference in Christianity and all other religions, every other religion on this planet throughout the history of humanity has been about man seeking God, right? Man striving up to God. But Jesus makes it really clear that sheep are stupid. I mean, I don't know how to say it. Sheep are stupid. We're ignorant. I mean, I am. I'm the chief ignorant of them all. They can't find their way on their own. He's the good shepherd who finds us. But every other religion is about man trying to get to God. With ours, Jesus came to us. All other religions are like the Tower of Babel, man trying to get a boost from beneath. Jesus teaches us that what we need is birth from above. So, and verse 5 shows that we make it into God's fold, not on our own works or our own strength, but on his shoulders. Not our own goodness, on his shoulders. 5 through 7, when he's found that sheep, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he'll call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I found my lost sheep." In the same way, there's more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God, and over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. In verse 5, we see Jesus rejoicing. In verse 6, it's implied that all the other sheep are already in the fold. Verse 7, all of heaven, the angels included in that, are rejoicing. There's a joy. It's a joyous occasion. When I first moved here, and I was asking myself and God if we were both crazy. Why are we in Lufkin? How long are we going to be here, Lord? 6 months, a year, 2 max, right? I really thought I had lost my mind, or he had, which process of elimination and thinking that it was me. But you have to understand the makeup of this facility when I first got here was way different. A lot of people had been here from some of the founding days of Glad Tidings, and they blessed their heart. They remembered that, and they wanted that. But I saw lost people wander in here that didn't match that mentality, their country club, what they were used to. And I remember the looks and the comments. Not all of them, not all the people that were here. So there were some great people here, don't get me wrong, but there was a handful that there was no rejoicing in someone lost being found that didn't fit their bubble, and it was heartbreaking for me. So I'm stressing the rejoice thing today, because we need to make sure we've been LifeGate for a while now, we're just a name change from Glad Tidings, but we need to make sure that we don't get that way. The lost silver, 8 and 10. Again, a woman has 10 pieces of silver, silver coins, loses one. Well, she light a lamp, sweeps the entire house, search for it carefully until she finds it. When she finds it, she'll call her friends and neighbors, say, "Rejoice with me, because I found a lost coin." In the same way, there's joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. Have you ever lost something important? I'm not advocating this, but my stepmom threw away a winning lottery ticket, but by winning, I mean like $50, okay? Which should have just taught my dad not to play anyway, because they're not there for you to make money. I mean, neither are the casinos. I worked for one. They are not there to make you rich. They don't pay for all that stuff by making you rich. And all those alarms that you hear going off, they're on timers. They do that anyway, whether people win or not. Anyway, okay. Have you ever lost something really important, like your keys? You ever lost your glasses? Those that wear glasses? Which is, that's a hardship, because you need them to see, but now you have to look for them, and you can't see. You search for 10 minutes, you ever found them on your head? Okay. That was my next question. You ever been on your phone talking, looking for your phone at the same time? I don't know why. I better be careful here. Let's see. I get it. Husbands have hard times finding things at home because they move stuff. No, okay, no, we can't say that. All right. How about this? So, an old Guidepost article talking about a lady whose husband was an airplane pilot, but he couldn't locate anything at home. And one day he asked his wife where the salt is, so she gets really annoyed, and she responds, "How on earth do you find Detroit at night in a blizzard, but you can't find the salt in your own home?" And it said that he responded back with, "Honey, they don't move Detroit." So, my dad lost a $100 bill one time. Pretty positive it went into the trash. We spent way more than $100 worth of time looking through trash and stuff for that $100 bill. We spent way more. I mean, we half a day, whole day or so. I'm like, what are we doing? There is grief, really is grief in looking for something you have lost. Whether it's your wallet, your glasses, your phone, anything important, your keys, there's grief in it if you think about it. It's not where it's supposed to be. You cannot find it, and there's almost this anxiety that hits. For this that's a coin, this woman needed the coin. It fell quickly. That was fast. It didn't take long to get lost, but the grief went on. If you think about it, went on and on and on until she found it. She's tearing everything apart. Ephesians 4:30 says, "Grieve not the Holy Spirit." I believe when we are lost to service, to opportunities, or lost in general, I think we can grieve the heart. Like I said Sunday, if the image of God can't grieve the Holy Spirit, so how do we do that? We're not living up to what he knows we are, not accepting what he knows we are. I have come home after visiting someone in the ER, okay? Go home to relax and can't find the remote. And we have searched. We tore the living room up. We have like an open concept living room kitchen. We're tearing everything's upside down, and I know where the remote goes. My wife knows where it goes. Aiden knows where it goes, but none of us touched it, right? We're tearing everything up, and the room's in shambles, and I feel, my thoughts like, well, I'm looking at everything. Well, I went from one emergency to another. For a lost remote, it was on top of the mantle under the TV the whole time. But there's this angst when you're looking for anything that you can't find, and then there's relief, and then you look at the room you have to put back together. Blake and Jalen were at our house years ago, and they're getting ready to leave, and she looks down at her hand. She says, "My ring's gone. Were you there?" "I think you were." She said, "My wedding ring's gone." We can't find it anywhere. And we realized that the couch we had at the time had it was a cheap couch, so the armrest of the couch is just a box, a wooden box built, but it had an opening where two pieces of lumber didn't go all the way together. Somehow it went in that. And it took us forever to figure that out. Poor Jalen, so nice. "Don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll figure it out." Absolutely not. We will burn this couch to the ground to find this ring. Hey, we searched. I think we tore the arm of the couch off or the bottom off or something. But there was anxiety in it that's an important thing. And I don't want to be the guy who someone's wedding ring got lost in the house. They could never find it. That's not the story I want. So we rejoiced after we got her ring out and we found it. We were happy when we figured out where it was, distressed again when we figured out we couldn't get to it, and then happy when we tore the couch apart. But this woman and her friends in the story rejoice when the lost is found. Again, then you have the prodigal or the lost son. Sin will always take you further than you want to go or intend for it to go. It will keep you longer than you want to stay, and will cost you more than you want to pay. Just kind of jumping into that parable, that story, I've already told it once, but in verse 13 it says a few days later, this is at the beginning, a few days after he gets his share of the wealth, he packs his stuff, moves to a distant land, and there he wasted all his money on wild living. Verse 13 ends by showing us how living wrong is a wasted life. And Willful waste brings a woeful heart, basically. Romans 6:16 says, don't you realize that you become a slave to whatever you choose to obey? You can be a slave to sin, which leads to death, or you can choose to obey God, which leads to righteous living. Isaiah 55:2, why spend your money on food that does not give you strength? Why pay for food that does you no good? Listen to me, and you will eat what is good. You will enjoy the finest food. So the prodigal son, or the lost son, realized that the very best the world had to offer him wasn't as good as the worst of his father's house. I have lived this life, not with my family, well, kind of, but definitely with the Lord. Having an idea of what it's like to know him and then living fully for the world. I know what it's like to be backslidden and to need to come back to the Lord. I know what it's like to think I'm going to wait till tomorrow or until there's a better time or until I have more free time. None of that ever works out. It's a today decision. Proverbs 13:15, good judgment wins favor, but the way of the unfaithful leads to their destruction. Now, other translations say the way of the transgressors is hard. Verse 20 says he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming, filled with love and compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. The father meets him on the road on the way home. He forgives him of everything in that moment. It's a picture of the Heavenly Father forgiving us of all our sins. And in verse 22, he puts a robe on the son, okay? The robe that covers everything, covers the stain of where he's been, the stink of where he's been, the wounds, all of it. It's a picture of the blood of Christ. It cleanses you of all sin. It covers us. 1 John 1:7, the blood of Jesus Christ, his son, cleanses us from all sin. Verse 22, he also puts a ring on his finger. That reconfirms sonship. The ring on this, you're a part of this household. Reconfirms his sonship. Something God does when he stamps us and seals us. Also in verse 22, the father put sandals or shoes on his feet. You had to think his feet had to be blistered, bleeding. They had walked the ways of the transgressor or the unfaithful. Now they get to stand in the halls of his father's house. Verse 23, he tells them to go kill the fattened calf. Not swine, but the fattened calf. So I don't know how long it takes to fatten a calf. I've done it years ago, but we didn't actually let it grow. We basically sold it when it was real young in Lafayette. I don't know. I'm sure it takes a while. I know it can't be done overnight. I say that because that tells me that the father was expecting his son to come home. He was waiting for him. He was preparing for his son's arrival. He had them preparing the calf for the feast. He had them preparing things. He waited. Then the son's hunger was taken care of. His want was satisfied. He's at his father's house. And that's the difference it makes when someone's backslidden comes home. But in 12 verses 12 to 24, we see this kid go from basically he's bad to he's mad. Then in 16, he's really sad. And in 24, he's glad again because he's back home. Brat. Anyway. 13th century, Robert the Bruce was the king of Scotland. They were at war with England. England sent an army to the palace of Robert Bruce to kill him. He kind of suspected that would happen, so he left before they got there. He was hiding out in the forest. So the army came to his palace to kill him, found out the enemy wasn't there. So the English soldiers got Robert Bruce's own hunting dogs out of their kennels to hunt him down. And he hears them barking. He realizes they're his hounds. He knows how they're trained, so he runs and he runs and he runs, and he starts growing weaker and weaker and weaker, and the dogs are getting closer and closer and closer. Finally, he comes to this crystal clear river in the middle of the forest, this brook, and he jumps into it, and he wades downstream for about 2 miles. After that, he climbs out, gets on the bank, and sat under this clump of trees, and he could hear the dogs upstream barking in confusion, and he realized that he had escaped. And I know that's a weird thing for me to tell you right now, but the application, if the hounds of your past are on your trail, if the dogs of sin seem to be gaining on you and you do not know what to do, let me tell you about a river, let's say. It's crystal clear. As strange as that sounds, crystal clear river filled with the blood of the crucified one. Sinners, as we plunge beneath that, we lose all the guilty stain. We lose, the trail, the hounds are lost at that point. Jump in the water, basically. And we stop with the prodigal son, and we forget to talk about the other lost thing in the story. There's one more lost thing in the story of the prodigal son. What is it? Does anybody know what it is? Thank you, Michael. The lost sibling. The prodigal son's big brother. We talk about him being faithful. We talk about all this stuff. But verse 25 says, meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. He stayed at home. He was faithful to dad. He returned home. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. And the servant said, your brother's back. Your father's killed the fattened calf, and we're celebrating because of his safe return. Verse 28, the older brother was angry and wouldn't go into the party. His father came out and actually begged him. This dude is just as lost as his brother is. The little brother may have been lost in the pigsty. I get that. But the older brother was lost in the pew. He's lost in the church. He was carnal. He was self-righteous. He lost all sympathy for his little brother, for his father. He forgot what a great occasion the return truly was. And it makes me think about the story, what I saw here when I first moved here a number of years ago. Because if you think about it, I told you the father never points out the son's sin. Doesn't even respond to his "I'm not worthy to be your son" comment. Instead, he tells the servants, my son is here. Let's put on a party. The first person to point out the prodigal son's sin is his brother. Verse 29, but he replied, all these years to the dad, all these years I've slaved for you and never refused once to do a single thing you told me to. And all that time you never gave me even one young goat. What a brat. Anyway, for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours, not my brother, when this son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf. It is always another Christian who shoots arrows at you when you're trying to come back after backsliding. The elder brother is a picture of a very carnal church member. I remember years ago, there was a young girl that she was struggling, man. She was carnal one week and godly the next, but her home life was just horrible. And she's up here one Wednesday, she's just worshiping away, and it was beautiful. And I had another young adult girl come up to me in worship that really, and I remember her asking me, it was right there, she said, how can you let her worship when you know what she does? I'm like, I've never wanted to hit a female in the church before, till just now. I mean, how can you let her worship? I'm like, how could you not? It's always someone that's supposed to be a fellow in the church that's going to shoot arrows at you when they try to come back. 31 and 32, the father says to the older son, look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We have to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he's found. The whole thing is that the lost can be found. There's rejoicing when it happens. And we don't have a whole lot of detail other than that about the brother. But I think that I think there we skip him in preaching and study so often because we think about the one that's out in the world, but never take time to think about the one that was stayed at home and the self-righteous attitude that he had. So the lost can be found, right? Somebody needs to be saved. They have to let the good shepherd find them and bring them into the fold. If they're already in the house today, that doesn't mean that we're necessarily, just because we're in the house doesn't mean we're in his hand. Like the coin, we got to make the most of the life we have for him. Let the Spirit find us and use us. And if we've backslidden, gotten away from God, we have to come to our senses and come home. After that, once others do, we have to celebrate when they do come home. Doesn't mean we have to co-sign on their sin. Doesn't mean we have to act like it's not sin, but there's a speaking truth and grace at the same time thing. And we need to receive all of them, whether it's the someone that represented by the lost sheep, the lost coin, or the lost son. We need to receive them with an attitude of celebration. Because you think about it, most of you, that's what you got when you were found. You received celebration. Okay? We're in a little town. Most church people know all church people, and you know everything they do. I get it. We celebrate, though. And I'm not saying this for any reason other than just celebrate the wins. Y'all remember when I get that he's a fool, Kanye West, okay? Yes, he's crazy. He's nuts, but he made his Christian album. How long ago was that? I'm not a big fan, so I can't tell you, but a few years ago? Thank you. Someone under 40 should know. Thank you. All right, a few years ago, he made a Christian album, and everything we saw was him being legit at the time. Christians hammered him so hard and called him fake and called him all this stuff that no wonder he didn't stay with it. There was no celebration of this guy, nuts or not, but coming into the fold. We have to be very careful. Social media makes Christians really judgy, especially with artists. Who's the new one now out there? Jelly Roll's one they're hammering right now. I don't think he's pretending to be a pastor. I really don't. He is a sometime Christian. He is trying, but the more I see people hammering him on Facebook, just super self-righteous, the more we're going to push people out of the kingdom by doing that. We have to give them the same opportunities we were given. So, any questions on the prodigal son, the brother, the dad, any of that? Yes, sir. Apparently, Joker was balling. I mean, he had. I've looked at that before because they split the inheritance, and the young son left. That had to be a split of what the father had at that point. Let's say, but he gained after. He's still gaining. He's still making money. So where it would have been upon his death, they would have split everything down the land and everything. They split so much to a point, I think probably they would have had to buy his portion of the land. Oh, it's just the way Jewish, law works. But yeah, he had the father. That's a good point. The father had an overabundance of gifts or resources to give, which is actually that's 2 weeks in a row, man. I like that. Okay. Anything else? It does not. Doesn't say. It's been a long time since I've looked it up, but. Because it just says that there was a drought, that a famine hit the land, trying to put it together. But Jesus' parables are just there. We don't know if they, most of them are just stories he used to illustrate a truth. So there's no way to backdate it. You try to backdate it with famines that have happened, and it's hard to figure out. But, I would say it had to be gone for a good bit. Had to be gone for a good bit. If they have those resources, of course, I've seen people blow through money quickly. I've seen a dude blow through 18 grand in a night. I mean, of course, he was doing crack, but still, he wasn't the day before. It just like, hey, where'd your truck go? Where'd your tools go? Where'd your I backslid. It's like, where's your phone? It's gone to. Well, I figured it out. It's like $18,000. So I've seen people spend money fast, but you're talking about a wealth. I mean, of cattle, livestock, land, and then he owned half all that at the point. So I figured he was gone for a few years. Is the way I've always thought about it. But he gets to a point where he's like, I don't know if you've ever seen any kind of slop that they feed pigs. It's not what I would call appetizing. Um, Healthy, not at all. No, neither is pork for that matter. But uh, to be so hungry that that looks appetizing, that you're willing to sit down there and dine with pigs, is that's a different level of hunger and brokenness. And when we talk about rock bottom, I think that's what we have to get to a point, like when we're lost in ourselves or lost in sin, where we each have to get to a point where we're literally looking at the slop in front of us, our lives, and knowing that there's a better way than this. And each person, it's different. We use it with addiction and alcoholism a lot, but it's really just sin and living for yourself. We all have to come to a breaking point at some point. All right, what else? Any other questions? Goodbye, YouTube. Peace out. I'm glad you said that because I did have one more thing, but not for YouTube. Y'all have a good night.